The first rally of Haikyuu, the movie decisive battle at the garbage dump, has a velocity that no other match comes close to replicating in the anime or manga. The film is the closest thing I have experienced to recreating the feeling of watching a live sporting event. The film depicts a battle between long-awaited rivals, with every rally bringing a life-or-death intensity. From the direction, key animation and effects, to score and voice acting, the entire production functions at the highest level, making this a triumphant return for the Haikyuu anime. The film shows the match from all angles, giving the court a three-dimensional feel. At the core of this muscular production is the battle between Kenma and Hinata, a battle that gets pushed to the forefront even more so than the manga, as the breakneck pacing erodes some of the side characters in the match. At times, the film borders on perfection, and at others, it moves so quickly you never get the chance to fully settle into the narrative. The accumulation was an experience like no other, a film that will satisfy and enrage fans simultaneously. Welcome to Annie Essays. Here we overanalyze anime and manga, with each video on the channel created under the belief that anime, same as film and literature, is worthy of in-depth criticism. If you enjoy my videos, the best way to support me is through my Patreon. More information about Patreon at the end of the video. I think it's fair to say that myself and many other Haikyuu fans would have rather had a 24-episode anime than a film, due to the amount of material still left to adapt in the manga. I made a video about that a year ago where I came to the conclusion that the Haikyuu movies will fail to recreate the same feeling as the manga due to the lack of time to adapt the material. For this video, I don't want to dwell on the decision to make this a film, but instead look at how they managed to reconstruct the long-form narrative of the manga and turn it into a digestible hour and 20 minutes. To condense the material, the staff made the decision to hone in on Hinata and Kenma's relationship as the film's anchor. This means certain character dynamics are moved a little bit more background, like with Sugi and Kuro, and Noya and Yaku. It also relegates many of the other characters like Asahi and Daiichi to roles that feel almost like cameos. The production takes an experimental route, mainly with how it frames images. We see the match from literally every possible point of view: sideline audience, at-home spectator, top of the net, to character point of view. The varied camera angles are paired with a relenting pace. Each rally itself moves in a way that the anime has never reached before. Before you can come to terms with what happened in one play, you're already on to the next, which creates this frantic feeling that's akin to watching an actual sport. When I think of seat-gripping action in the Haikyuu anime, my mind always goes to Oikawa's serves and Ushijima's spikes. The visceral feeling of watching those two monsters play is awarded to every rally of this film. A huge part of the elevated feeling comes from the film's sound design, punctuating every single hit of the ball like you're listening to a rocket take off. I know this won't be the same for everyone, but my theater experience was Marvel-like in terms of hype. Every person in the room enthralled by what is happening on screen, gasping at every point scored, every remark made. It's the type of experience you don't get very often with your favorite long-form content, and for that, I was extremely thankful. The entire staff deserves a ton of credit here, from the return of director Mitsunaka, who was the lead director on the first 3 seasons of the anime, to the rest of the staff that I'll put on screen, who all collaborated to make this film incredible. Every frame of this film is filled with a palpable passion for the material, as it adds to the feeling that you're watching a major event unfold. The accumulation of a staff firing on all cylinders is the opportunity to experiment. The various angles used to show the match pay off in the final rally when the camera takes on Kenma's point of view. To finish off a match of non-stop action, it is only fitting that the audience becomes a player. During this rally, you see the pace in which decisions need to be made, the raw emotion of fighting to keep the ball in the air, and the hope to play just a bit longer, and it's conveyed beautifully through this shot. Just like Kenma and Hinata, I never want this match to end. I could watch every single point at a snail's pace and be satisfied, but that wouldn't depict the truth of sports. The film adaptation conveys one element of volleyball that the manga could never depict. the real pace in which these players play. Because of that, this adaptation passes with flying colors for me. But don't get it wrong, this movie is a totally different experience from what you get in the manga. The manga plays up the unsettling nature of Kenma far more, to the point where despair is the only emotion you can feel during the second set of the match. It also allows you to come to conclusions about the gameplay on your own. The manga visually leads you to figuring out Kenma's strategy well before he verbalizes it, which adds to the sense that Kenma has Hinata totally beat. With only an hour and 20 minutes, that was never a possibility for this film. By creating a feeling of watching a real-time sporting event, the movie does skip through tons of points, and at times a little too quickly to truly feel grounded in the set. There are a handful of panels and moments I wish could have made the final cut. In particular, I think the backstory for Nekomata and old coach Yukai would have done wonders for this film, but I can understand the want to keep the only major flashback sequence to Kenma and Kuro. I can never separate my understanding of the manga from the film, so I'm curious to see how anime-onlys receive this. I do expect to have similar feelings to this movie that I did with both Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. Dune is my favorite book of all time, so when I left the cinema for both of those movies, I could only think about what was cut out. Later reflection, I was able to appreciate how well Villeneuve adapted the material into a film, and seeing the areas where he added new layers onto my perspective of the story. Not to say I won't wish they had adapted everything perfectly from the manga, but that I can appreciate the experience I did get. For those like me who still prefer the manga, make sure to check out my full analysis on the match and Kurasuno and Nekoma's rivalry as a whole with this video I made a couple months back, as I won't be repeating many of the conclusions I came to in that video. Beyond the match's final point, there were tons of other moments that I thought the film handled perfectly. The editing of Hinata's quick made me literally gasp out loud even though I knew it was coming. Hinata breaking free from the cage was just as hype as in the manga, even though they did handle it a bit differently. Kenma and Kuro's backstory was woven into the match beautifully, giving him much needed weight to their relationship. I also think the anime did a great job at making Lev seem even more intimidating than he ever did in the manga. And just like every time I read the manga, I cried when young coach Yukai shook Nekomata's hand at the end of the game. Adapting this match into an hour and 20-minute runtime was an uphill battle from the start. As a huge fan of Haikyuu, I will continue to criticize the decision-making that led this to being made into a film instead of a season, but the film itself and the staff that worked on it delivered in turning an impossible situation into a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Sitting in a theater surrounded by Haikyuu fans brought energy levels that I have only experienced at the biggest releases of franchise films. For an hour and a half, my mind was transported into an obsessed state over a fictional volleyball game. Much like the way Kenma feels, I never wanted it to end. Each rally has the intensity of the best stories I have ever experienced. I'll always cherish the chance to see Haikyuu on the big screen with other fans of the show. I only hope something changes in the production committee to at least allow fans the chance to see the post-timeskip material in the form of a third movie or at least OVA episodes. For now, you can probably catch me at the theater again, trying to contain the fleeting experience of finding myself absorbed in the drama of characters, trying to keep a ball in the air for just a little bit longer. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't believe the Haikyuu film is here after all this time. While I still wish it would have been adapted properly, I can't deny how cool it was to see this level of production for the series. We can only hope that they are willing to give the rest of the material enough screen time. If you enjoyed this video, then consider supporting my Patreon. Through Patreon, you get access to the channel's Discord server, where we talk all things anime, manga, and media-based, as well as having monthly anime watch-along discussions. You can also get your name at the end of every video and access to my Patreon-exclusive channel updates. Thanks again for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.